All right, I will call this July 13, 2026 meeting of the Westwood Select Board to order. Pursuant to Chapter 2 of the Acts of 2023, amended on March 28, 2025, Governor Moore Healy signed into law an act extending pandemic-related authorizations related to public meetings, allowing hybrid meeting options for public bodies through June 30, 2027. I will hereby grant permission to Westwood Media Center to record the meeting along with anyone else who wishes to record the meeting. And thank you to Charlotte Lynch for being here to record us this evening. And with that, if I could ask everyone to please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. I will move right into the chair's update for July. The Westwood Public Library is recognizing Disability Pride Month, celebrating disabled identity, culture, and achievements while raising awareness for civil rights with a reading list and a display. And secondly, I understand that this is Town Counsel Pat Ahern's last select board meeting with us before his retirement. And although this isn't goodbye yet, Pat, I couldn't let that occasion go unrecognized. Yep, sorry. And we want to thank you again for your long and illustrious service to the town and particularly to our board. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Very kind of you. Let's see if you're clapping for me at the end of the night.
And with that, I will turn it over to Connor Reed for the town administrator's update. I'm sorry, I forgot to introduce everyone. So we have Molly Fitzpatrick, our deputy town administrator, Connor Reed, our town administrator. I'm Mary Ann LeBlanc Cummings, chair of the select board with my colleagues, Aaron Sibley, Joe Privatera, and of course, the aforementioned Pat Ahern, town council. With that, I will turn it over to Connor. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you, Mary Ann. We have a lot of business on the agenda tonight, so I don't have a lot by way of town administrator notes, but it's our first meeting of the new fiscal year 27, so I do want to give a shout out to our finance team at Town Hall for closing out fiscal 26 successfully. It's a lot of work to do that at the end of the year. It's kind of not the glamorous part of a job after town meeting before the new fiscal year starts. So thank you to Maria O'Leary, Pam Dukeman, who's been filling in as interim finance director, Kathy Foley, and Laura Bukhari for all their work. So that's all. You'll hear from me plenty tonight.
Thank you very much, Connor. We will move into scheduled action, and our first item of business is a one-day wine and malt license for Westwood Living, and I believe we have Nora Locknane with us, as well as Tom Leiden. Please join us at the table. Welcome, both of you.
Thanks.
Hello, how are you?
Good.
So what we have today is a one-day special wine and malt beverage license filed by Tom Leiden on behalf of Westwood Living and Hale Education Summer Bonanza. This is to benefit the Dana-Farber Cancer Center, and the event is scheduled for Thursday, August 27th. The event would run from 5 to 9 p.m. on Cat Rock Field, and it would include food, music, and games for children. The applicant is using Decanted as their certified alcohol provider. They've provided the TIPS certification cards and their liquor liability insurance. The event is expected to attract approximately 300 attendees, and a police detail will be provided throughout the full event. There's a food vendor who has not yet applied for their permit, but will. They are putting up a tent. Similarly, a tent permit will be needed from the building department. The application was reviewed by the Alcohol Review Committee, and they recommend unanimously the board grant this one-day license.
Thank you very much, Nora. Tom, would you like to say a few words?
Besides thanking Mr. Ahern for your many years of service, in all seriousness, we love doing what we do. Thank you so much for the work that the town has done on behalf of this, and this is one of our signature events each year. This will be the 4th annual. We've typically done it at the Bean Farm, moving it over to Hale Education this year, so we're very excited about it.
That's wonderful. Well, you do so much for the community, Tom, you and Westwood Living, so we thank you for that, and this is a wonderful event for a great cause for Dana-Farber. So thank you for all that you do. Any questions or comments from my colleagues?
I just have one quick question, which is what is the Alcohol Review Committee and who is on it?
So that is an internal appointed committee that advises the select board on alcohol licenses. It includes the town administrator, the health director, the director of community and economic development, the licensing agent, and a representative from the police department and the town council.
Thank you.
Hearing no other questions or comments, I will entertain a motion.
I move for the select board to grant approval to Tom Layden for a one-day special wine and malt license to serve alcohol on Thursday, August 27th at Pack Rock Field Hale Education at 80 Carby Street from 5 p.m. to 9 p.m. and the time needed to set up and remove alcohol from the premises from 4 p.m. to 10 p.m. on Thursday, August 27th, 2026, pending food permit issuance and the final public safety inspections.
Second.
May I ask that you amend that to include the electronic signatures be added to the license, just to make it easier for us to be sure we get this out in time?
Sure, I move to add the electronic signature to the one-day special license for Tom Layden.
Thank you.
With a further
I'll
second,
second that, yeah.
all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
That is a unanimous vote in favor. We hope it is a very successful event.
Thank you. Hopefully we'll see you all there.
Good
The
weather.
weather cooperates. Rain or shine, we'll do it. We got a tent.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
And I know, I realize.
Sorry, you have
Thank you.
every one of
Everyone's
our
about to tell
leaning
me
in
I-
your peripheral vision.
Yeah, I skipped over public and press. I apologize. I was just apparently anxious to get to the full agenda, so we will do that. Does not invalidate your vote. You're fine, Tom. So we will now have time for public and press. My apologies, that was completely my error. Any folks here in the room who have a comment or question? I'm seeing none. Who is check?
Me.
Molly, thank you, Molly.
There's one comment. Robert Gotti, formerly of 55 Rock Meadow Road. I'm sorry if I missed public comment period. As a former longtime resident and public servant, I want to echo the sentiment of thanks for your long history of selfless public service. I wish you well in your retirement. Claire and I look forward to hosting you in Carroll soon. I'm assuming that went to Mr.
Thank you. I'm not used to this much attention.
How many attendees do we have remotely?
2, 3, 4, 5.
5, okay. I think here in the room, as far as people not here on a board or committee, we have 2, I think. Any other comments or questions, Molly?
Nope, not at this time.
Okay. I think we can safely move ahead with the rest of our agenda then. So again, moving back to scheduled action, we are at the announcement of the Westwood Chief of Police finalists. I will turn this over to you, Connor.
Sure, thank you, Mary Ann. And I'll invite Chiefs LaValle and Perro up to the table. I'll give a bit of a backdrop, and then they're going to add a little bit of their own perspective when we get to the assessment center part of the discussion. But we have some exciting news to share for the Select Board and for the community, something that's been in process for many months now, since the springtime announcement by now former Chief Silva of his retirement after 13 years of service to the Westwood Police Department. We have been running the executive recruitment process both through our office and working with Barrow and Associates as the assessment center firm for Westwood's next chief of police for many months now. So I am pleased tonight to announce the finalists, and as part of that, I will share their names. We'll talk a little bit about their backgrounds and the agencies that they hail from. I'll talk about the interview schedule that the Select Board will be following in the coming week. And also just a brief recap of what that process was. I think the board probably has committed it to memory at this point, but I think it bears repeating because I think it bodes well for the people of Westwood and the men and women of our police department, how thorough this process was and the level of expertise that was brought to bear to ensure that we get this right. So I'm pleased to transmit to the board the names of our 3 finalists for your consideration as the next chief of police. They are Nicholas Jamali, current lieutenant of the Duxbury Police Department, Russell O'Neill, current deputy superintendent of the Brookline Police Department, and Michael Dalala, lieutenant and acting chief of police of the Westwood Police Department. Each of these three candidates have passed through 3 stages of interview and assessment, as outlined in my April memo and presentation to the Select Board, a copy of which you've been provided with, but again, for the public's benefit, included the first panel interview was with Westwood's Executive Function Group. That name doesn't really roll off the tongue, so I'll explain who was part of the Executive Function Group. That is myself, the Deputy Town Administrator, Town Counsel, the Assistant Fire Chief, the Director of Public Works, Director of Human Services, the Town Clerk, Director of Information Technology, the Superintendent of Public Schools, and the Director of Community and Economic Development. For those who made it through that first interview panel, they moved on to a Police Chief Assessment Center that Chiefs LaValle and Para will describe in more detail a little later in this update. Those who then performed well in the Chiefs Assessment Center went to a semifinal stage of a panel that was appointed by the Select Board, the Public Safety Panel, which was really kind of a belt and suspenders approach to bring an additional layer of public safety expertise, both from in-house in Westwood and from folks who are public safety experts who do not work for Westwood but happen to live in Westwood. Members of that panel included Fire Chief Steve Lund, Assistant Fire Chief Colin McCarthy, Public Safety Communications Director Brian Camp, retired Norwood Police Chief Bill Brooks, who is also a resident of Westwood, Superintendent and Chief of the Bureau of Investigative Services for the Boston Police Department, Paul McLaughlin, who also happens to be a Westwood resident, and myself. Each of the 3 candidates that I named to the board performed well at all 3 stages. All of them carry advantageous quantitative assessment center scores ranging between 84 and 91. And all were unanimously recommended by the Public Safety Panel as the 3 finalists for the Select Board to consider and choose from. As I mentioned before, the process just to get here has been exhaustive. These candidates have passed interviews with Westwood's administrative leadership team, including the superintendent of schools, 5 non-Westwood police or fire chiefs in the assessment center, and then additional residents and experts, including additional chiefs and public safety experts at the Public Safety Panel. All 3 candidates have a professional experience responsive to the Town of Westwood police chief job description. Each of them has experience well in excess of the town's minimum years of experience that are prescribed by our town code. Each of them carries positive recommendations from their current or most recent police supervisors, and none of them have any results that return on public statewide disciplinary record databases. From here, after they're announced tonight, the candidates will be before the Select Board for 2 special meetings, or really they will be before you for 1 special meeting, but the deliberation will follow. So this Friday, July 17th at 8 a.m. at 50 Carby Street at the Municipal Building, the Select Board will do the final interviews of these 3 police chief candidates beginning at 8 a.m. You will not select the chief at that meeting. You will take a breather after a few hours of interviews and come back Monday night, a week from tonight, July 20th at 6 p.m. here in the Westwood Public Library, where you will deliberate and select the next chief of police. I want to note that for both of those special meetings on the 17th and the 20th, those will be open meetings that will be available for in-person attendance. They will be filmed for rebroadcast and public availability, but they will not be live streamed on Zoom or WMC to prevent the possibility of any unequal advantage for anyone who is interviewing second or third being able to watch the meeting and get a preview. Not that I suspect any of these finalists would. It's the right thing to do. There will not be scheduled public comment at either of those special meetings. This process mirrors, I say closely, but nearly identically to the process that you ran for your executive recruitment of the town administrator. I might be biased, but I thought that was an okay process that you all did. That process is a best practice that balances the critical importance and the right of the public to follow, watch, and understand the deliberations of their select board in making this critical appointment, while also being fair and professional to the candidates themselves who are interviewing. We were provided with all the candidate materials. We have, again, the assessors here who brought an incredible amount of expertise to this process, and I can't thank them enough. And I would turn it over to Chief LaValle and Chief Parrow just to give the board a brief recap of the types of exercises that you drilled these candidates on in the assessment center and any feedback you wish to share.
Okay, well, thank you very much. As Connor mentioned, we do quite a few of these, and this was a very extensive and exhaustive process that we went through, and starting with the interviews of the internal candidates. Chief LaValle and myself were there as observers and were able to answer any questions people had, and then when we entertained outside candidates, we did the same interview, exact same process as we did with the internal candidates. Chief LaValle and myself were there, and we ran those candidates through that process. And prior to that, we did, an extensive resume review. So that brought us up to that point. We selected the candidates that we would send through the assessment center. And the assessment center was developed based on the town of Westwood Police Department. We used, fictitious names and stuff, but we used their same org chart, same square miles, same staffing and everything that the Westwood Police Department had to make it as realistic as possible. After the interviews and before the assessment center, we had a community meeting that we had here. We took extensive notes on the community meeting, and we included quite a few interesting comments we got from the community meeting in the assessment center, both in the in-basket and in the mock community meeting that we had. So we were able to address some of the public concerns, and not only public concerns, there were issues that were somewhat unique to Westwood. So we were able to make it, again, as much Westwood oriented as we could. The assessment center consisted of 4 exercises that the police chief would deal with, during his, not every day, hopefully, but during his career. First exercise was an in-basket exercise, which is items, concerns, issues that are going on in the community that the chief has to answer using his laptop. And so those were 7 items that they had to address. And then in addition to that, we had them put together a report on body-worn cameras. We know the police department doesn't have them, and we were looking for pros and cons. I mean, there's plus and minuses to using body-worn cameras, and we just didn't want them, say, how would you institute it? We wanted to know, would you institute it? And if so, what are the cons and what are the pros? So they had to do that all in a short period of time, a little over 3 hours. During that 3-hour period, we're pulling them out for other exercises. So as I had mentioned, we had a community meeting exercise where the candidates had to prepare for a community meeting exercise, which was to give an overview of the police department. That helps us with the external candidates, that we make sure that they understand the departments, they understanding the workings of Westwood. And then we have canned questions that we ask each candidate. Again, some of those questions were based on what we heard at the community meeting here, and then some other questions that we felt were pertinent to that process. We had a tactical community incident, so we had a tactical incident that was in the community. I don't think it was a surprise to anybody. We used an ICE incident where ICE came into the town and they were arresting some workers in the community. And the police chief had to go down there and take over his role of, being the police chief in the town of Westwood, also realizing he's dealing with a federal agency. They have responsibilities and they have rights, but also the police department has certain rights they have to protect of the people that live in the community and work in the community. So that was a good incident that we felt that we used. And then we had a role-playing incident where one of the assessors role-played a police officer that was using social media inappropriately and harassing one of the police officers. So pretty realistic. I'm not saying that's happening in town, but it's pretty realistic, industry-wide, that we use that. As Connor said, we had myself and 4 other assessors that have all served at the level of police chief or higher, Chief LaValle being one of those. So we had and assessors that have done, many assessment centers for police chiefs. And so we had a, real good panel. It was a good day. The candidates were very engaged, every single one of them. Very engaged, and sometimes they kind of drift off, but we felt we had a great group of candidates that came to the assessment center. After the assessment center, each exercise is scored. We have somewhere between 25 and 12 different points we score each candidate on, and that's done with a consensus scoring. So each assessor has to agree with every single line in that scoring sheet. And the scoring sheets we've used for 8 or 9 years now that were massaged and developed over the years, which have proven to be very good and reveal the true strengths and weaknesses of each candidate. So that was pretty much the assessment center. After the assessment center, we had the public safety interviews again with the Public Safety Committee, which went very good. Again, Chief LaValle and myself were there observing, answering any questions that they had. I thought it was an excellent activity to look at the candidates, and these were the 4 candidates we ran through the assessment center. After that, there was a unanimous vote, and we dropped that down to just 3 candidates that that we thought should move forward to the, not we, but the committee itself felt we should move forward to the Board of Selectmen that you have in your packet that you have. At that point, Chief LaValle took those 3 names, knowing that those names are going to be public now, and then reached out to their immediate supervisor and chief, and I'll let Chief LaValle take it from here, but the long and short, the preferences came back very good for all of the candidates. Chief LaValle?
Thank you, Jack. This was one of the most comprehensive, most professional processes I've ever been with since I've been doing this work with Jack in the past 6 years. The town of Westwood did a tremendous job putting this entire process together, and I think the fact of the matter is you're going to get 3 extensively good candidates for this position is very, very positive. I received a phone call from a town administrator recently who asked me for some advice on how to go through the process of hiring a police chief, and I said, call Connor Reed. Connor Reed can tell you exactly how it should be done. He did a fantastic job, all of you did a fantastic job putting this together, and I know that you're really going to have a great set of applicants that you're going to talk to. You're going to be very impressed with all of them. And all 3 received very, very positive evaluations from their supervisors, their immediate supervisors. Of course, Lieutenant Delala here from Westwood, I spoke with Chief Silva, the current chief here at Suffolk University and the former chief here in Westwood. He had a very extensive and positive outlook on Lieutenant Delala. And then, of course, we went down to Duxbury. I spoke with the deputy chief there. His name is Friend Weiler. And we spoke about Lieutenant Nicholas Jamali, and he gave me a great presentation as well. And then, last but not least, Superintendent Paul Campbell of the Brookline Police Department was interviewed by me because the applicant was Deputy Superintendent Russell O'Neill of the Brookline Police Department. So I spoke with Superintendent Campbell. He gave me a great evaluation as well. And I've written that all down. And then recently, I just received a letter, I believe you have it, Connor, as well, from the police chief in Brookline, also about Russell O'Neill, and she has given us a great recommendation on him as well. So I think that the job that was done here was very, very extensive, professional, And I think you're going to find that all three candidates are going to be excellent choices for your job as police chief.
Thank you both so much for this presentation and for all of the work that you've done in this process. Very significant work. It sounds like you've made our job very difficult, which is the mission, right? To give us great candidates to consider, given how important this is. So thank you very much.
You're welcome.
I do have one question about the assessment center, and I appreciate your explaining it a bit more to us. And you talked about the tactical community incident piece of that, and you said it was an ICE exercise, a fictional exercise where ICE came in. I'm just curious, can you give us a sense generally, how are people scored on that? So when we look at a score, what's reflected in that? What kinds of actions, or what are you looking for?
I'll let Chief LaValle.
Well,
answer.
if I can see, Jack,
Yeah,
the
absolutely.
documentation on that.
And I think members of the public would be interested
Sure.
in hearing that as well.
So basically, when we have a situation that develops like that, the tactics that the chief needs to take to make sure that things are done in a peaceful and orderly manner basically exist when they do things, for example, that allow them to make sure that they're communicating with the people who are there, who are upset and protesting the event, communicating with the ICE leadership at the scene, communicating with the town administrator to make sure that that person knows, the potential for media coming to the scene, and the main purpose of this is to maintain peace and order, not to allow for any type of excessive force. You know, the police have a requirement in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts to prevent excessive force from taking place. And that federal guideline is really sometimes very difficult to kind of, figure the whole damn thing out. But the point is this: we know that ICE can come into a community and cause disruptions. And we know that the police departments all across the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, across the country, need to have an extensive evaluation of what to do if an event like that takes place. And everything what we asked the police chief to do, what would you do in circumstances like this? For the most part, all of them answered it very, very well by making sure that we follow the laws and the procedures of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts when it comes to dealing with federal agents, and making sure that everything that's done at the scene is done to prevent any type of disorder or violence and things along those lines. Communication, having this type of dialogue between the people at the scene and making sure that people know the person you can reach out to prevent further violence or, discourse can take place. So that was the idea behind all of this, to make sure, we know what happened today in Biddeford, Maine, which was, very difficult situation to endeavor to deal with, and that's what is going on up in Biddeford right now. So it's something that everybody did a pretty good job with.
And we did include an excessive force issue that they had to deal with also in that. So it was very realistic. It's happening across the country, and like Chief LaValle said, all four of them were very attuned to it, with it. The Attorney General had put out a whole set of guidelines for it, and a lot of our questions are based on what she put out and what the Commonwealth expects. And so it was very specific to the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, and very appropriate exercise for the four candidates. And
it sounds like, I'm sorry, just one more question. It sounds like this is a very stress-based kind of assessment where you're having them do the in-basket assessment, and then you pull them out, okay, deal with this crisis, and then back to the in-basket to see how they can handle all of those things at once. Is that the idea?
Yep, and that's how it is. You come in the morning, flip your computer on, you start doing something, you have to go maybe address an employee issue, or you get a call out for, an incident like the ICE incident, and then you got to come back, refocus, and get back, to putting that report together and everything else. And it's, we try to make it as real life as possible. We don't add any additional pressure. We treat everybody as professionally as possible. There's enough pressure between the exercises and them having to get through. Again, that the in-basket's very time restrictive, considering we're pulling them out for 2 other exercises while they're doing that.
Our demeanor is not antagonistic. We do not put this, on these candidates in a way that make them feel like, oh my God, I'm going through hell here. We want them to deal with the situation in a way that it's very professional and low keys, and they do it well.
We want to know what they can do. We don't want them, we're trying to get the best out of them at an assessment center so we can get a true feeling on their capabilities.
Makes a lot of sense. Erin, Joe, any questions, comments?
I have a question. Jack, you had said, and thank you so much for all this work, and I know you've done this in other communities, and I appreciate you attending our community discussion that we had with residents. You had mentioned when you were preparing for the assessment center, you took in some factors that were unique to Westwood, and I'm just curious, having done this in multiple communities, what did you find based on that conversation and just this process that you found was unique to Westwood in terms of this search?
It was just, off the top, there was probably 6 things we brought, because we used some in the community.
University.
Yeah, University Station.
Station, right?
Yeah, we had that. Some of the issues that were discussed that were down there. Some of the issues there was some talk at the community meeting about how the promotions were done within the department. We used that. Off the top of my head, I can't remember.
Speeding, out-of-town speeding through local streets.
Yes, the speeding and then.
Traffic, yeah.
The traffic concerns that they have in the community, how they could address those. So those are kind of unique to the community, but there was, and there were a couple internal ones with, some of the internal issues that we were kind of feeling that was going on within the department, how they would handle those and what have you.
Thank you.
Jack, Ken, tell me a little bit about, captured my attention with bullying, harassing, excessive force. Tell me about the responses that you look for from the candidates. I don't want to know what you put out there. What's the response that you wanted to hear?
Well, the response was, maintain order, peace, and prevent violence from taking place. And you need to make sure that both the ICE agents are protected from violence, and you want to make sure that the people who are protesting at the scene are protected from violence as well. And we want to do that by making sure that there's a dialogue, there's conversation taking place between the police department and ICE and the protesters to keep things in check and to make sure that you don't violate their First Amendment rights, give them the opportunity to speak and to protest and so forth and so on, but we don't want things to get out of hand. And that was what, we expected everybody to answer the question to, and that's what they did.
What I was looking for, Ken, I'm sorry, I wasn't clear. I'm talking about internal bullying,
Oh,
Yeah. Well,
harassment. It's in every department.
Yeah.
What are you looking for the chief to say? What are the A answers? I don't want the B, I want the A answers.
Well, we give them 2 issues. We give them the social media and the harassment one, to make sure first of all, they handle both issues, because they're usually more comfortable handling the social media and don't want to address the other, and we've seen people just gloss right over it. We're looking for them to, because they are chief of department, take some type of work towards some type of corrective action. At this stage, they were doing more investigation and trying to get the other, you get one side of the story, they have to get the other side of the story from, the person that's, that's in there that they're talking to, and, ask certain questions, how they conduct the meeting, whether they lay out, this is what we're gonna do, this is how we're gonna follow, and it all depends on how the person, the assessor reacts to the questions that they ask the perpetrator or the person that's being accused of doing the harassment. So we're looking at how they're gonna, what questions they ask, how they approach it. Do they
What
have?
questions should they ask? Tell me, give me some examples of questions they should ask. I'm harassing Ken. Ken says, Joe, you're full of malarkey. What sort of questions are you going to ask?
I wish I brought him up.
Well, I think the questions that need to be asked are basically explain what is going on, why this is happening. Give us some insight into the problems that you're experiencing here, both individuals involved in this conflict, and make sure that we can put this to rest and kind of prevent this from happening in the future. That is what we expect the candidates to say to us, and that's what most of them said.
Good.
Yeah, are you calling her honey? Because that's one of the things, she's now referring to me as honey out on the street. Are you using that word? Do you think that's inappropriate? And, the assessor that's playing may go off on a tangent on that, and then we're looking for the police chief to bring that meeting back under control, and then ask appropriate questions. And we have a role play, for the assessor to follow, so he follows the same role play for all the candidates. And, but we're looking for him to control it, we're looking for him to come to some sort of resolution, if possible, to explain, why what they're doing is wrong, or it's perceived as being wrong, what actions they're gonna take if this behavior continues, and, pretty much lay out the path forward. And, depending on how the assessor handles it, we have the assessor do it, so it's pretty much clear to the chief that he or she is harassing that candidate. So we're looking for, how they're gonna take care of that incident moving forward, how they're gonna have follow-up, how, they're gonna make sure they're not harassing, continue to harass. We use the name Shelley York. I don't think hopefully it's nobody's name, but we use that. And, we have the officer always say, well, I'll take care of this with Shelley York after this meeting. And so now the chief has to squash that and make sure that doesn't happen. So there's a lot of things that are going on. It's very interactive. But we're looking for the police chief to take care of that incident. And then, of course, make sure he handles the social media issues also, where he's bad-mouthing the department and what have you.
Anything else, Joe?
What do you expect the chief to say when that person who's harassing the other one says, I think I want to bring my union rep in? What should the chief say?
Then we let them bring the union rep in.
You look for the chief, the candidate to say that.
The candidate would say that.
Okay.
Yeah, and we would say the union rep, okay, the union rep is here. Because the union rep doesn't have any interaction. The union rep's there just to make sure that nothing's violated.
Right.
So we would just have the union rep. You don't have to offer them a union rep. They have the right to have a union rep. Sometimes the chief will come right out and say, this could lead to discipline. Would you like union representation? And then if they say yes, then we
You have a subject.
we say that the union rep is there. So that again is something else we look for, but again, it's not something you have to offer them. The union member is should know that if it could lead to discipline, that they have a right to have union representation there to make sure their union rights aren't violated.
Okay. No, I'm good, Mary Ann, thanks.
Okay.
Marion, we have one comment on the topic.
Sure.
Kathy Wallace, 283 Farm Lane. Will there be an opportunity for residents to submit input by email after the public interviews?
I mean, the select board's emails are public, so.
There's always opportunity to send email to the board, so the answer is yes.
Yeah, I'd actually like that. So it's going to be public, and I'd love to hear from residents their feedback.
Anything else, Molly? Well, Chief Perro, Chief Lavelle, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
So thank you, and Connor, thank you for the opportunity. Thank you for making this a very complete process. We appreciate it. We're available for any questions you may have while you're deliberating over the next week. Connor has my contact information. Feel free to reach out, call my cell phone, send me an email if you have any questions.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you both.
Thanks. Yeah, thanks, Ken.
Want to also acknowledge and thank all the staff, both on the executive function group, the chiefs panel, the residents who participated on the chiefs panel, staff who did the surveys, residents who did the surveys. All those folks put in a lot of time, and I really appreciate it, and appreciate the board's confidence while we manage this process for you.
And all the folks who attended with me the community forum here, and the chiefs were here for that as well.
Yes.
And thank you for all the input we've received from residents coming directly to us. So it has been an extensive process, and I'm proud to hear that Westwood is being touted as a model of how to do this the right way. So I'm proud of that as a board member, and thank you to you, Connor, and Molly, to everyone who has worked so hard to get this process right. Okay, moving on, we have the Blue Hills Technical School Assessment.
Yes.
I will turn this over to you, Molly.
So as the board knows, the town of Westwood is one of 9 communities that are part of the Blue Hills Regional Technical School District. When the FY27 operating budget was approved in May of 2026, it included an estimate of the assessment at just over $100,000. Since town meeting, Blue Hills has finalized their assessment at $104,000. And so to cover that gap, the town administration and finance department are recommending that the select board authorize a transfer of $3,779 from the select board reserve fund to fund the Blue Hills Regional Technical School Assessment fully for FY27.
Thank you, Molly. Any questions, comments, concerns?
I have one question. Who's our representative to the school? Every community has a rep.
It was in the materials. Yeah, it's right here. Sheila Vasquez.
Okay, thanks.
Yep.
Madam Chairman, if I may,
Please.
this is not the first time this
Yeah,
has happened.
it's not.
We've had to do this many times in the past.
Fortunately, it's fairly
It's a fairly low number.
nominal
Yes.
amount. Well, hearing no other questions or concerns, I will entertain a motion.
I move that the select board authorize a transfer of $3,779 from the fiscal year 27 select board reserve fund to the Blue Hills Regional Technical School Assessment account to fully fund the town's fiscal 27 assessment obligation.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
It's unanimous vote in favor. Thank you very much, Molly. Thank you to our whole finance team, as pointed out by you, Connor, that they've been working to close out the fiscal year. We appreciate their hard work. That leads us to discuss a letter of support to the Massachusetts Senate in relation to Norwood Hospital legislation. Before I turn this over to you, Connor, I just want to be clear that the town has been supportive of this Norwood Hospital legislation, but I wanted this to be on the agenda to hopefully make clear that as a board, we are very much in support of this legislation and understand the dire need to get Norwood Hospital back up and running. So I'll turn this over to you, Connor.
Sure, thanks, Mary Ann. As the board may recall, I think it might have been my first meeting with you. In February, we briefly talked about this subject. Fire Chief Steve Lund and I submitted a testimony, written testimony in support of the proposed eminent domain legislation that the House was considering at that time under H 5047. The House of Representatives has advanced a bill that would authorize the Division of Capital Asset Management and Maintenance of the state, subject to appropriation, to acquire the Norwood Hospital property, which would then be transferred to the Department of Public Health and conveyed to a qualified nonprofit hospital owner. I think the board is well aware of the capacity hit that the closure of Norwood Hospital has posed, not just as far as a regional hospital and acute care facility, but also a hit to fire departments, including Westwood. as far as where their options are to bring individuals via ambulance for acute medical needs. There has been a task force working for some time now to lobby the Commonwealth to take action here, and they are on the cusp of doing so. The legislative session ends July 31st. The bill is in front of the Senate as House 5553. We, just as way of example, provided our previous testimony in your packet and wanted to see if the board would like for the town to submit on your behalf written testimony in support of this bill.
Yes.
Yes, yes.
100%.
Okay, the answer is yes.
Yeah, for sure.
And we want to make that really clear, and we appreciate the work that you've done, Connor, Molly, Chief Lund, who is here, and so many others and other communities. So I will entertain a motion on this.
I move that the select board vote to authorize a letter of support to be submitted to the Massachusetts Senate on behalf of the town of Westwood in support of House Bill 5553.
And that we can place your electronic signatures on them.
And also that we can put our electronic signatures on it.
Thank you.
No, I can second.
That was a second?
Yes.
All in favor?
Aye.
That's a unanimous vote in favor. Thank you very much, Connor.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to a Fire Station 1 update. And with us, we have Chief Lunt, and we've got,
We have quite a crew.
yeah, we have a crew here, but we'll start with Chief Lunt. Welcome.
Thank you. Just wanted to give you an update on how things are going in the Big Top. So when we first went in there, I put out a general order that they would, the driver would be in the truck and that they would go out in the street, stop traffic after activating the lights, and then the truck would pull out. Well, we've had a few near misses. People just don't pay attention to anything. So I've amended the order. We are now, they're staying on the sidewalk to make sure pedestrians aren't coming. The truck's gonna go out, no matter which one it is, ambulance, ladder, block both lanes of travel, so people have to stop, and then they will get into the vehicle and proceed to the call. On the way back, they're doing the exact same thing. They'll block both lanes of travel. They were trying to be courteous and you know, they'd stay on their lane of travel, and people were just going right around them with, we even put the lights on and everything. So we've amended that. We have the block the box out there. I'd like to work with, I've reached out to Todd this morning. I'd like to expand that. There's 2 more signs that I'd like to put up. They're like the solar ones, and they have the flashing, I don't know if you've seen those in other spots, that say, you know, trucks entering. And possibly there is some, I don't know if you call them cones, they're just, you've seen bollards like you've seen in Medfield Center. I don't know if you've seen that. To kind of narrow traffic down to that point. And I was talking with Mike Perkins about that. He said it'll make people like uncomfortable, and that maybe they will actually slow down. So with your permission, I'd like to implement those measures and try to make it as safe as we can.
Absolutely. I remember we talked about don't block the box right out here, right? And we got that done really quickly, right, Nora? We got that done in a couple days after we talked about that. I mean, that was working with Todd, of course, but
It's really hard during rush hour. People are still blocking it. But I'm more concerned about, they can get out of the way if they're parked, if they're staying still there. I'm worried about the moving traffic hitting one of my firefighters. You know, we can hit the sirens and make cars move, but making them stop is more difficult.
I'm so sorry you're dealing with those challenges. Do you need a motion from us?
I didn't know where we were putting bollards in the street if we had to.
if the board would like to, you may, and we could work with town council and make sure it's compliant with MUTCD.
So, point of order, you're the street commissioners,
Right?
so if you make a motion, it becomes something that needs to be acted on or done. So you can do that. You can also authorize the chief in his capacity to implement measures to provide safety to the fire station. That gives him a little more leeway as he's working through the process.
I think the latter makes sense.
But does he need, as the road commissioners, Pat, would it be better if we specifically authorize, for example, the expanding the don't block the box?
Sure.
Let's just maybe do it
Or-
two ways?
Or whatever steps he deems necessary.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
So what you're doing is you're authorizing him to protect his firefighters as they, and I was on 109 not that long ago, and I stopped where you're supposed to stop. And the person behind me, I shouldn't say guy, I wasn't sure what it was.
Leaning on the horn.
Yeah, like, what are you doing? And it's like, so, been there, done that, but, so you can, sorry to digress, you can authorize specific things, but you can also authorize the chief in his discretion to make moves to protect his firefighters.
Okay. So perhaps it would be a motion in the vein of, in light of the safety challenges presented by the temporary structure at FS1, that the board authorizes the chief to take whatever steps deemed necessary to protect the firefighters as well as the apparatus, specifically including extending the don't block the box on High Street and whatever other measures deemed necessary, something along those lines.
That works. If someone were to say so moved and seconded, I think you could move it along.
Okay, so moved.
I'll second it with further discussion.
Please.
Steve, I can't help but think about the Milton firefighter that was struck on 138.
Yep.
That was absolutely awful.
That's why I told them stop going in the street, because people just aren't paying attention.
Absolutely horrendous. Steve, one thing that crossed my mind is, could you think about, the days will be getting shorter soon, about now getting some additional lights so people see the men and women when they're out on the street?
Yep,
Let's not do it in November. Let's get the ball rolling now.
I've talked to the town electrician about that as well, putting another, but with, we don't want it shining in the neighbors' windows.
Right.
So we have to be cautious of that. So maybe even if we had it across the street shining towards us, that might be an answer
Right.
we could do.
Right.
Joe, I hate to tell you, the days are already getting shorter. I was up
Yeah.
early this morning, and the sun is not up as early as it was a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah. But let's think about getting some lighting on it, and, yeah, I think that's all now.
So, Madam Chairman, you have a motion and a second.
And I just wanted to make one other statement, just for folks listening who may not be aware, that the problem is that with the temporary structure necessary to protect the apparatus, it's basically flush with High Street.
Yep.
So that you don't have any clearance between the roadway and where these trucks are coming out.
Yeah, I'll give you one example. Car 3 was backing in, and a pedestrian literally walked into the side of the car because she was on her phone. So people just aren't paying attention.
Have you talked to Mike Delisle about some assistance with this?
They've been, Officer Baker's been there several times. They do a lot of radar from that spot anyway. So they're there a lot, sitting out in front. So people still don't.
I'm sorry. But I like, maybe you can put up a were we talking about billboards just a little while ago? But anyways, maybe you can put up
We've
a.
got the big electronic sign.
I saw that. That was a good move. Good move, yeah.
Well, we have I'm sorry. go ahead.
I think just to pull the lens back a little bit, we asked the chief to come in because you have a pretty detailed presentation and update on where we stand with the new FS1 project. And we don't want to take for granted that folks who occasionally, follow along your meetings, some folks might see the tent, which is a reasonably resilient tent, and say, oh, look, it's fixed, right? And it's not, right? It was not proposed by the chief, Molly and I, as a long-term fix. This was an emergency fix because the apparatus bay was deemed unsound to continue operating. It's a problem that is not going away. It is a problem that, while I know myself and Molly and the board appreciate our firefighters for getting back on this side of town for the sake of having a safe response time, it is not a tenable long-term fix, so.
Just for example, when it rains, the water is just streaming in there, and I know in January, it's gonna be a skating rink in there. So it's not great. It's not a great setup.
Mary Ann, can I just make one request, dovetail? Steve, can you, when Connor works on the letter regarding House Bill, was it 5553? Talk about it should be, well, nothing's easy, but doing a look back on how much more in mileage you're doing on the ambulances compared to 5 years ago. And those miles are time out of the city,
Yeah, I could do it through the EMS reporting system.
But I think that's important, Connor, that we've talked about this. It's not just Norwood Hospital. Norwood is a regional hospital, and it's affecting all the chiefs in the area and trying to maintain their vehicles and keep them up and running.
Yeah, that, and then the big thing was a cardiac hospital. They had a cath lab and everything else. Now, everything cardiac related goes to Boston.
Right.
So you're adding significant time for our most serious calls.
Right.
Madam Chair, there is a, oh, never mind. There was a hand raised, but they unraised it.
Okay, thank you for keeping tabs on that, Molly. And I think, the bottom line here is I think it's really important, Chief, that you came in to tell us about this, and I think it's really important that residents understand that as bad as things are at FS1, and although we have the temporary structure, so at least the apparatus is protected, it's putting the firefighters at further risk.
Yeah.
It's increasing the risk to them.
And we're trying to do everything to make it as safe as possible. Predictable is preventable.
Right.
We can see the problems here, so that's why I'm trying to address it.
We appreciate you bringing this to us, and we encourage you to come back if there's anything else that we can do to help and to make things better while you're in this temporary fix.
Thank you.
So, did we vote?
No.
We did not vote. All in favor?
Aye.
It's a unanimous vote in favor.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chief. Hang in there.
Thanks.
Turning this to you,
Sure,
or?
so thank you, Mary Ann, and to the select board. As has been a standing item on each of your agendas for some time now, we have a project update on the FS1 project. We have PMA Consulting, our project management firm here, along with Castle Booz Associates, who's the town's design firm. They're going to give a slightly abbreviated update reflecting what they provided with FS1 steering this morning. I know not everyone gets super excited about municipal building projects like I do, but I think they're doing a really good job, and that the board's going to be pleased with what they have to report. So happy to invite Todd, Walter, and Seamus up to give that presentation. A longer version of which was included in your packet and presented to the FS1 steering committee this morning.
Thank you, Connor. Welcome. You've been in front of us before, but if I could ask you to please introduce yourselves and tell us who you're with, just so everyone watching will know. But welcome.
Not a problem. I'm Walter Hartley with PMA Consultants, project manager, and this is
Seamus Connor, PMA Consultants, also project manager.
Todd Costa from Castle Booz Associates, lead the design team.
Welcome, all of you.
It's up there. I don't know how to make it go there.
Charlotte, sorry, is there a way to give the presentations up here? Is there a way to put it back there so the board can see it as well?
On that. I did see the FS1 steering committee meeting this morning. I thought it was extremely productive, so looking forward to hearing your presentation.
It's always the first time, and then it's good.
it's on, it's on.
You want to just tell us, next slide?
See, he broke it. This is all Walter's fault.
Those at home, we're just unsticking the remote.
Stop sharing.
While we're working on that, I want to recognize Ford Spalding, the chair of the FS1 Steering Committee. I want to thank you, Ford, and your vice chair, Jody Petroselli, and all of the members of the steering committee who have been working very hard. Thank you very much for what you're doing.
It's not working either way.
I have another one if you want to try it out.
It worked earlier today.
It worked, yeah, it worked 10 minutes ago. Try one more thing.
There you
Okay,
go.
hey, all right.
Thank you, Molly.
All right, thank you, everyone, and thank you for having us. As we mentioned, we did have a very productive, albeit longer presentation with FS1 where some great discussion and great decisions were made by the FS1 Steering Committee. So tonight, for everyone's agenda, we're going to go over the program update, initial test fits, the title search and survey update, and then initial site matrix discussion. So again, all of this was discussed with the FS1 Steering Committee. And with that, I'll turn it over to Todd to begin the discussion on design and work plan and how we progress through that.
Sure. So we first initiated the conversations with the department to understand where their operations are and how they operate, how they disperse the staff, what was kind of included in the previous programs. We dove into kind of gain that overall general understanding where it was, where they currently are, and where we're going forward. With that, we actually had, we met with the leadership, we took previous community feedback, drafted up an initial program for review, and then we sat with the fire department and some of the committee members to continue that process and kind of narrow down and evaluate. So, first of all, the current staffing is on an 11 firefighter model, most recently having the 2 additional firefighters added. But this is a graphic that will kind of describes for members of the community as well as yourself, if you're not aware, how that staffing model works for the fire department. So if they have 9 on shift relative to vacations or out sick, people being out sick, Fire Station 1 holds 6 firefighters with Fire Station 2 holding 3. In a 10 firefighter model, so 1 is potentially out sick, 7 is, there are 7 firefighters at Station 1, 3 still remain at Station 2, and it's not until we get into the 11 firefighter model where it's fully staffed, whether it be for emergency events or upstaffing for the recent 4th of July. You go 6 at headquarters or Station 1 and 5 at Station 2. So this is kind of the model that we're looking at to understand from the fire department so that we can best put together the program for today as well as looking forward a little bit into the future. That also directly affects how that is how that deployment works, and this kind of shows that call mapping, if you would. The red areas indicate higher call volumes, the green indicates lower call volumes, and kind of where those are a little bit more, centralized or frequent in those manners. Not that there's no calls within that green area or the white areas, they're just less frequent. And that's also how it's dispersed into the districts, sorry. So to jump into the programming process, like I said earlier, we started with what was the previous program for the department, and that was about 36, almost 37,000 square feet. Our initial model, as we looked at some of those spaces, how it was kind of programmed, how many of those spaces, we were able to create a initial document for review that was about 31,000 square feet. So we saw the opportunities for reductions before we even sat with the department. As part of sitting with the department, they confirmed our assumptions on those reductions. And then we were also able to identify a few spaces that we reviewed with the committee this morning and were taking so that version 2 or point 2, we're actually able to get down to 29,700 square feet. So through that, and the committee voted this morning to accept the version 2. So we're about that 29,700 square feet. Yeah, I'm just trying to make sure. This kind of shows you where some of those discrepancies are. Much easier to read in the meeting this afternoon than it was this morning. Initially, what you can see there is that apparatus bay, the original program being yellow, and then our two programs being in blue. A significant reduction was able to be pulled out of the apparatus bays. Staff facilities, a good reduction was able to be pulled out of that area, as well as in the command area as well. What you do see here is the maintenance bay. We're able to shorten it as well, but the fire department operation support increased. Now, what that increase could be is we categorize a little bit differently than the previous program, but there is also some potential savings in that as well. Going right down, I'll just quickly go through vertical circulation is a reduction, training area, a slight increase in that training area. Building services is almost equal. Public and lobby area has a slight reduction. Storage is a slight increase. We've yet to run into a fire department that says they had enough storage on the opening day. Training facilities, the training and public meeting, I'm sorry, then the training facilities, there was a slight increase in the area there. And then the maintenance, facility maintenance, so that's a building maintenance and operations. What that basically leads to is about 80%, I think it was, of the area from the previous square footage. And you can see all of this kind of come together here with percentages of increase, decrease in the chart on the right-hand side there.
Todd, is it fair to summarize, part of this, all the design firms, when we were doing the rebidding of that process, the town was very clear that we were looking for firms with an approach that would try to maximize the functional utility of each square foot with multi-use space, flexible space. And really when folks look at the change here, so where we're at between KBA's first pass review of the fire department and then a little bit extra reduction from the FS1 steering committee this morning is about a 20% reduction, but still at 5 bays and with a mechanic bay.
Absolutely, and that's a great point. One of those areas that you saw the significant reduction was within the apparatus bay, and we were able to, in that analysis, find in a standard bay that we would typically recommend anywhere between 8 to 16 inches. And now that doesn't sound like a lot when we're talking about it, but when you take that over an 80-foot length and you take that across 5 separate bays, that totaled out to almost dropping one whole apparatus bay off of the building, about 1,000 to 1,100 square feet. That's significant when we're talking about this type of project and what the cost per square foot can be. So that's an immediate reduction, just in simplifying the building construction itself. Other opportunities that we talked about with the department and had discussions were that future growth in areas, being able to do that instead of each function of an office being its own dedicated office, we're able to take and create a shared office environment, kind of like a cubicle type space, where now you can have, at a much greater efficiency, 3 people occupying, maybe doing 3 separate functions, all within one room, as opposed to 3 or 4 separate rooms being required. So that's the area of looking for creatively combining space in order to meet the function of the department, and not take away any of that function, but do that in a much more efficient floor area. And then finally, another one that kind of hits on that is, we were talking about the shift commander typically has his own bunk, his or her own bunk, where they need to have an office that's outside of their bunk area to be able to meet with staff if they have to have a staff-type meeting. That, instead of being located somewhere else within the building, can be right outside of their dormitory area, their bunk area, but shared between the 2 shift commanders' area. So again, one office space there takes the place of 2 separate office spaces located somewhere else within the building.
So a couple, and I know I'm now defeating the purpose of I told you all to make this shorter and I'm adding to it. But I think it's really important to note that, so some of the areas that were reduced, you have apparatus bay, which aggregated to quite a bit because you have 5 bays and reducing a bit on the doors to a still acceptable standard per Westwood Fire Department, but also other more recently constructed fire stations adds up quite a bit. But then really a lot of the areas for reduction were administrative office spaces and tying the bunking in to be a little bit closer to what we do today with the ability for doubling up during major events or future growth, right?
Correct.
What was not reduced was decon, right, which is critical for life safety and for the health of the firefighter. So I don't want anyone watching this thinking, we're just taking a meat cleaver to the program for the sake of saying it's smaller, mission accomplished. Those critical areas, as you'll see, I think those are carried, is that under fire, FD operations support total? So really it's a reprioritization away from administrative office bunking space to fire operations, so.
Correct, absolutely. So yes, that, I was looking for it, and that FD support is actually one of those areas that grew slightly because the functionality of what that is today and how that's evolving needed that little bit of extra space to properly be allocated and held true there. Now, I think this is we'd like to go into the site test fit, so I think this is a good kind of area to kind of pause and see if there's any questions that you want to talk about relative to programming and the exercise there.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. I heard a lot of this discussion listening this morning. Joe and Aaron, questions?
I was just gonna say, just so I understand it, it's safe to say that the headlines is that you're meeting 100% of the programmatic needs and that our fire department has weighed in on these decisions and been part of this process, but that you're coming out with, including being able to do all their own maintenance on their own equipment, which I know is important, and coming out at 20% smaller than the last go-round last year.
Fair to say.
That's fantastic.
Fair to say.
Yeah.
Can we back up to slide 10, please?
Slide.
Joe, sorry, the slide numbers are not going to perfectly match because this is an abbreviated version.
Yes.
I knew that, I thought I'd keep them looking.
Fair enough.
Which,
We're in the right area. No, other way. Keep going. Let's try the one after.
it might have been one of the ones that was called out.
Well, on the unculled version, there's a slide that says, sorry. NFPA 1710 standards. And Steve, you can help me with this. First engine company, 4 minutes. Full response, 8 minutes. Basic life support, 4 minutes. ALS support, 8 minutes. Can you explain why ALS is taking 4 minutes more than the BLS?
You have to come up here.
We squeeze another chair up there.
Absolutely.
Chief, you may as well stay.
I think that's going on the model that BLS goes first and then there's an intercept. With us, we're gonna meet it in the 4 minutes, because all our ambulances are ALS, our engines are ALS.
Right.
That's why we staff the way we do.
Okay, so the public knows that the ambulances that roll, or the engine companies, will generally be there within 4 minutes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
And Todd, the only point I want to make, and Steve, it's unfortunate, but you know the graph that I'm thinking about. We got some questions. Why do we have to have 2 stations? One of the reasons why we have to have 2 stations is because many communities are shaped like a square. Westwood, unfortunately, is shaped like a pork chop. And at University Ave, where we have a hot spot there, that's an 8-minute run time, with Islington Station being staffed. So this is one of the reasons I want the public to understand. This is why we have to have 2 stations, because of that 8-minute run time down to University Ave. And there's also an 8-minute run, Oak Street, Steve?
Yeah.
Yep, to those areas. So I just wanted to, I'm sorry, it's a great graph on my screen, but, you know, I was determined to make that point. I'm good, Mary Ann. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe, and yeah, thank you for the creative efficiencies found in this project, which were, as you noted, voted on by the FS1 Steering Committee to continue in this vein. So it is very exciting to see that progress, and Chief, that this is something that you can get behind, and in terms of communication with the designer meeting the safety needs of the department.
Yeah, absolutely. Everything that they've done, we've talked about extensively, so.
Excellent.
I think we're good to go into.
So our next step was to do some initial test fits. So each of the buildings that you see on here is based off of that similar size, that 29, almost 30,000 square foot, sorry, should bite me, building. So the first one here is the existing headquarters location that you can see the building being located. You have Ford accessing out to High Street, as well as rear-facing apparatus bays, but that still conforms to the overall intent, where we've got 3 coming out to High Street, 3 on the lower level that would basically up the side road or the entry drive there, and again, be on High Street. Familiar location, existing civic identity, all the things kind of noted there. So that was a test fit on High Street. Is there anything that I missed from the conversation?
No, I think just we want to highlight that these are
very preliminary
concept test fits. These are not final design plans, and these are all based on the existing program that was voted on. So these are all relative to the site, but relative to the program that was voted upon this morning by FS1.
Right, and that they will change. Yes. Right.
Understanding all of that, is the concept here, it was hard to see this morning from how I was looking at this, that you've got apparatus using the driveway?
The driveway this way, along the side?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So the driveway is restored?
Yes.
It's continuing, which is, okay. So you've got apparatus under this concept coming out the back, going up the driveway.
Correct.
Thank you.
So our next test fit was Deerfield Ave. This has, again, two means of egress, primary one being out to the north, if you would, and then that secondary roadway, which is still under exploration, but this allows us to do drive-through bays or dual response, both front and rear. However, as we get further into that conversation with the department, however they prefer to set that up. But you can see here that the building is oriented, the exit here to the existing school, if you would, it's a little bit challenging, but again, very preliminary, shows that we can fit this building on the site as it exists currently and maintain all the functionality for the department. We have a little bit of proximity to butters on High Street and some wetlands that are to the north here, if you would, which we can either maintain or potentially replace.
I think one of the things that came up at the meeting this morning and has come up in the community is obviously where this test pit is shown is on top of a current field. One of KBA, I believe you have landscape architects within the
Yes.
firm, yes? And that's something you do quite regularly when you do schools. And so one of the things KBA understands is expected of the iteration of this is showing what kind of field replication we can do on site, because obviously Deerfield's quite a large site. And so there's some capacity there. This test fit shows the existing school building intact. That's where that stands currently. Again, it's concept. There's a survey going on to get down to the kind of foot and inch on the leg of the parcel that currently does come out to High Street. And we are, much like the title search with the land behind Starbucks, wanting to ensure exactly what those access capabilities are, because that's going to be important to the steering committee before they make a decision. So that's underway now.
And then finally, the lot 14-131, i.e. the lot behind Starbucks, again, showing that 29,000 square foot, that preliminary program does fit here with the circulation in and around it, for the department to be able to respond and circulate. However, this is, single point access would be the one, kind of negative thing immediately. Single point of access for the emergency vehicles to get in and out would be the one negative aspect on this site at this point as we're evaluating it. And with that, I will pass along to Connor.
So as Connor mentioned, the surveys, as Connor mentioned, the survey is being prepped for the Deerfield site. PMA was asked to, and on behalf of the town, get the title search complete for lot 14-131. McCall Land Title Company was able to perform that well in advance of the timeframe we thought we were going to get from them. So there are two primary right-of-way easements identified connecting to 14-131, and there's a secondary easement extending through the parcel. You can see on this map, so I'll move right through here. Up on top are the two primary easements. So it's to the left of the screen. That green line that then is through the parcel is that secondary easement that was mentioned as part of the search. So on top, you have a 10-foot easement right at the property of the Gulf Oil Corporation. 10 feet is really not enough to do anything with for entry exit for vehicles of this size, magnitude, and the traffic that goes through. There would need to be some type of taking or agreement, and again, I'll turn over to Connor. I don't think there's been any type of...
There's no agreement in place, but we will be meeting with owners of Gulf to get down to looking at maps and understanding more particularly their position in advance of the steering committee making a decision, because that will weigh in.
So again, 10-foot easement across lot 1, easement legally restricted for emergency vehicle access and multi-use trails. So likely would not tie into access to a facility. It was for emergency access in case of emergency.
Which one is that, Walter?
That is the top one.
Okay.
Yep. And then the 15-foot, which again is still tight, cozy, but explicitly designated on the plan a longer while back, provides rights for ingress, egress, and utility installations, water, sewage, overhead wires between High Street, the interior parcels. However, again, neither party here has expressed any type of interest in any type of taking or sale of land there. It does exist, but really not going to be super helpful for egress, and ingress purposes for something like that. So title search was completed, and moving forward based on the information we receive, based on any discussions that happen, and keep the board up to date, along with Connor and Molly, anytime we have new information for you guys.
So is this lot landlocked or not?
By definition, not landlocked, but for accessibility purposes, 100% more would need to happen on the town's behalf.
100% for fire apparatus.
100% for fire apparatus, what?
Well, for legal purposes, the town owns legal rights to access the site.
Yes.
So it is not landlocked.
No, it's not legally.
The staff could put their cars in the 10-foot driveway, unless they have bigger driveways at home.
The fire department staff?
Yeah.
Yes. Anyone from the town could access that.
Could
Yep.
use the easement.
Could use those.
No, I'm just saying that you could have the staff come in with a small driveway, and their apparatus use the 15-foot.
The 10-foot would not really be feasible for what you would have to do to grade out.
And what do you think?
Is right through Starbucks parking lot, too.
Yeah.
Oh, no, I know that. I'm just, how wide do you think the driveway is next to 637 High Street?
That's what the survey is going to tell us. We're going to determine exactly what can be done there. And if something can't be done there, we will absolutely
637 High
I was
Street?
talking about the existing fire
Oh, the
station.
existing fire station. We're not saying that we're going to use the existing driveway. We'll make that as wide as it needs to be.
Any other questions, Joe,
Nope.
at this point?
Okay. Moving forward, schedule and next steps. Everyone knows the schedule that we've been working towards. We know it is an ambitious schedule, but one to get the most constituents available to be able to provide input on the project and be able to vote on the project when that time comes on the ballot. As everyone knows, FS1 Steering Committee has been working since back in October, November of 2025. Following that, so what we're calling Phase 1, pre-feasibility, forming the team during early 2026 and into the spring of 2026, with feasibility ongoing since the designers come on board. Phase 3 and Phase 4, feasibility and schematic, have kind of are overlapping, which is very typical for a project of this nature. We have a lot of work ahead of us. One adjustment to the schedule that we did want to make everyone aware of was that the FS1 Steering Committee has decided to move their August 10th meeting to August 7th in order for the most participation and attendance from steering committee members. So that is from a Friday to a Monday.
No, other way around, from a Monday to a Friday.
From a Monday to a Friday, sorry.
That's okay.
We are still anticipating a community forum the week of July 29th.
It is the 29th. We confirmed that since I saw you this morning. So I'll weigh in on that after I got the details there.
Perfect. So these are our steps to get to that board date. And we have been able to hit those based on the meeting today. It was very productive to have that decision and that discussion with the committee based on the program. It's going to allow test fits to continue. It's going to allow progress to continue on the designer's end. Calendar representation of where we're at and upcoming meetings. So if anyone wants to look at it on a calendar view instead of a list, we have that available as well. Same thing on this. So this is September, October, and November. Previous was June, July, and August. Community outreach. Facebook page was launched, I believe. I'm not sure if we were live last time we were here, but Facebook page has been launched. I believe we have 160 followers currently. We'll do everything we can to up that. We'll have an ad going out as soon as we can. Content integration going on with the project. Everything that goes on for meetings is going on to the project website, going on to the Facebook page. And we will begin social media channels to address or to advertise for public meetings such as the community forums that we just talked about. But community engagement is going to be a huge piece. We've structured the community forums to occur in advance of the FS1 steering committee meetings so that information can be taken, the community voices can be heard, and information can be relayed back to the FS1 steering committee so they can make the most informed decision based on their constituents' voices as well.
So just to add a little bit to that, we'll be putting, really starting a pretty aggressive push of information and outreach starting tomorrow and Wednesday, particularly starting to summarize some of these opportunities coming up in July and August, as the board is aware, but I think it's always worth repeating publicly. We did earlier this month send letters to the abutters of all 3 sites that are under consideration, laying out that July and August are critical months for this project, and that if they want to participate in the conversations around site selection before a site is selected, the time is now. We have the new project website going live tomorrow, which will be an improvement from the kind of typical municipal site. It will be easier to find documents and contact information and photos of the station, kind of status of where things are at. We will put out a press release tomorrow that summarizes the upcoming meetings for the FS1 committee, but specifically that at the FS1 committee's next meeting, 2 weeks from today on the 27th, is going to be basic, concept level site plans and rough cost estimates for these 3 options, which will be presented to the FS1 steering committee on Monday, the 27th. We will then have 2 community forums that week, one in person on Wednesday, July 29th at 6 p.m. at the Westwood High School Auditorium. And then the following day, for folks who either can't make Wednesday or are out of town because it's summer, we'll have a virtual public forum on Zoom or some other similar remote meeting platform. That would be Thursday, July 30th at 6 p.m. So we will update all that information to the town website once we nail those logistics down. We will also be doing, using the reverse call system in town, probably later this week, to do a call out to everyone, letting them know about the forum, and that forum is in advance of the FS1 steering committee picking a site and locking us in to move towards project scope and budget. Concurrent with that, in the event you're traveling or you're not necessarily wanting to go to a detailed forum presentation, we will launch a survey with the kind of key information about the sites to ask folks to share their opinions on that. That'll probably be open for a week or so, overlapping these dates, so that if you can't make it in person, can't make it online, you still have a way to weigh in. The goal there, as Walter said, is that the steering committee and the community therefore have the technical and expert information. We then hear from the community, and the FS1 steering committee has what they need at that point to make a decision. So, happy to answer any questions.
That was the next slide, Q&A.
Thank you all very much for this presentation. Clearly, there's a great deal of creative efficiencies in the process and in the substantive work that's been done to date, which is exciting to see. Let me turn it over to my colleagues for their questions or comments.
I'm good.
I have a process question. Is the FS1 committee making the decision, or is the FS1 committee making a recommendation to the select board? Or is that semantics?
It's, I would say, somewhat semantics, just because of the charge that they were given by the select board. I'm going to pull it up to make sure I get it right. But I actually have no Wi-Fi right here. But I'm fairly certain that they were specifically tasked with picking a site. Initially, they were asked, and Ford, I'll correct me if I'm wrong, you were initially asked to pick a site by March, and the committee picked the 3 and said these really warrant further study, which is where we are. So ideally, there's not significant daylight between the steering committee and the select board, but the board ultimately, I would say, reserves for right. It's you are responsible for the town's property, but recommendation of the select board identifying which options should move forward for a study, engagement, or funding. So it was option or parenthesis S. So
I think it's a good question to raise, Erin, and I think it kind of highlights the need for the ongoing discussion, right? So, Ford, FS1 committee, working with so many of the professionals, town staff, and with us, as well as members of the community, that all of these conversations really need to be happening. Obviously, we're limited in terms of participating in the FS1 steering committee meetings. We can watch, we can't attend as a board, but, certainly we can have discussions, right, with Ford, who is always making himself available, and the other members, and that we should be doing that, so that we're having those ongoing conversations, as well as with the other various boards in town who are also interested and engaged, including FinCom will be making presentations. You will be making presentations, presumably, to
Yes, and we
FinCom
have-
very soon.
And have been keeping the leadership of these boards informed, because we do not want any surprises. So FinCom both had their reorg meeting, and it all blurs now, but I think June 15th had a conversation around schedule for the project, have spoke with the chair and vice chair of FinCom, looking at a late August project brief in advance of opening the formal town meeting hearing in September. Met with the chair of both Concom and Planning and Zoning Board, with permitting staff as well, just to talk about what the project approach is this time, how it differs, not wanting folks to feel surprised that based on going for approval at a schematic design phase, it's not a fully permitted project. So we are taking very seriously our kind of shared obligation from our office, the select board, the project team, to make sure that the public knows what's going on and why, that your citizen boards, elected and appointed, know what's going on and why, that we are trying to keep everyone rowing in the same direction.
And I think, to the extent, Joe, Aaron, sorry, I'm trying to block the sun, Joe.
It's a losing battle. It keeps moving on me.
You folks
that,
have
Steve, would you
feedback
please?
for either, our consultants or the FS1 steering committee. We should talk about that now. If there's something that you think needs to be addressed or looked at that hasn't, or any advice or guidance that you might have, that this would be the time to really raise that, if you have anything you want to add.
No, I just want to understand the process. So
Oh, of course.
And I want to understand, so it's going to come to us as a one option and sort of for us to approve, as opposed to, these are our 3 sites and for us to choose. That's all.
Correct. I mean, that's the process as we've been operating on for some time. But again, to Mary Ann's point, you are all well within your rights and encouraged that if there's anything that feels fatal in particular about a site from your perspective that you share.
For sure. Yep, understood.
I think it's been pretty thorough, Mary Ann. I'm happy with what you guys have put forward. I'm good.
Great.
One other bit that we included in the packet, and we've tried to turn it into a slide, but the font size is already so small. Joe, you have asked, and it's always a good question to remind the public of what is construction inflation trending looking like. There is not yet a state building authority for municipal buildings, but if I have my way before I retire, there will be. But there is one for schools, right? And while it's not exact apples to apples, it's a pretty good data point to see what your point.
I have it after, I can.
Oh, you have it.
I have it.
Never mind. I'll stop talking.
Sorry.
It said Q&A. I thought you were.
I had it after.
I mean, it's in the board's packet, but something to really make the point that time really is money here. That
You can just click to it if
Me again,
you're
hold on.
figuring that out.
so. The MSBA tracks the per square foot construction cost of every MSBA school in Massachusetts, and they make it publicly available. They show what it has historically costed, show what the average trend is through current, and then they show where projects that are in the schematic design and approval phase with construction looking out as far as 2029, what those costs are. By the end of calendar year 24, the average cost per square foot of construction was $700, which had grown 52% from the $460 per square foot only 5 years earlier before COVID. Projects in the design and pre-construction pipeline today, forecast for construction in calendar 26 through 28, are estimating construction costs between $800 and $1,050 per square foot. That does not include overhead design. There you go, Walter has some of this. But that, again, shows another 50% construction escalation just since 2024.
Yep.
So time is not on our side, because there will be some folks, understandably, as a select board, this is your last business meeting before November 3rd, where you would be voting, you would have to vote a ballot if we want to go for November 3rd. There may be some folks saying, take additional time. There's nothing wrong with that perspective, but as this shows, time is emphatically not on our side. And so I do want to reemphasize when we talk about this schedule, while it is ambitious, there are no deliverables or project milestones that are cut, right? It's about making sure that the information is available to the decision makers in the community in a way that we could present, listen, act, present, listen, act as we go through, because it is not going to improve as time goes on. And that's what this graph is here. A little hard to see, but all the way on the left of the screen is 2009, back in the good days when you could do construction for 250 a square foot. And you will see as it goes to the right, it is not only increasing, the rate of increase is growing. And you have projects hitting
Above 1,000 a square.
over 1,000 a square foot. So for every 1,000 square feet, you're $1 million. Just for construction, not counting roughly 30% overhead for the rest of a project.
So I think that's probably a good piece of information to even dive in a little bit, that we are looking at roughly 6,000 square feet of square footage based on program that we're able to identify.
To reduce, which is millions of dollars.
We're gonna see,
How much?
Millions. Well, so if we took the program down by 6,000
however,
square feet, if it was done at the exact same time, it would have been a cost savings of millions. We are, however, contending against the per square foot cost has increased and continued to increase since those bids last spring. So we're trying to balance that. We certainly don't want to overpromise and underdeliver. I still think our odds are good to deliver a really responsible, tight project, but the market is not in our favor. So I don't want folks to see the sign and say, you know, they cut 20%, therefore whatever the project budget was, slash that by 20%, because by the time, even if there's an approval in November,
we need to carry
We need to
construction
carry
cost escalation to the midpoint
into
of
the
construction.
midpoint of 2027, which at that point will be 2 years after the first approach. So, but also don't want to be a rain cloud. That 20% program reduction is a very good place for this conversation to be starting, especially to hedge against that.
Can I ask if this all passes at the meeting in, on the proposed timeline, and we have a vote, a special town meeting at the end of October, we have a vote in November, when would the proposed construction begin? Not holding anybody to, obviously, I
know.
realize it's just an estimate, but just, I get this question a lot, like how quickly can it get rolling if it is all approved on the proposed?
Immediately go into DD.
Yeah, we would immediately go into design development, which is, the second to last stage before bidding. So roughly from the top of my head, somewhere between 6 to 8 months to complete that, get it out to bid.
1 to 2 months of bidding, pre-qualification.
Puts you around Labor Day for groundbreaking.
On what?
Labor
Day next year.
27.
Which is not a bad place to be ahead of winter, getting foundations in the ground.
Right.
I have a question for Walter and Todd, and I hate to even bring it up, but I will. What kind of supply chain issues can we see?
We have been incredibly I know KBA has had some experiences on other jobs. We have been incredibly lucky.
That's good, stop right there. Don't go any further.
Yep.
Thanks, Joe.
Yeah.
Stay right there.
The COVID stuff has not continued in that realm. It's really reeled back in. However, the prices have not reflected.
Yep, okay.
And then I guess just last request of the board is your next meeting is August 3rd. You are not slated to decide tonight, but if you're willing to share your temperature so that we could appropriately align legal counsel, elections, et cetera, should we be coming to your meeting on the 3rd of August with motions prepared for a November 3rd ballot?
Yes.
I like it.
I agree.
I mean, with emphasis on the fact that and I think it's really important for the public to understand that by meeting this schedule, we're not skipping any steps. I think that's really important. And I think that we should also emphasize that the reason that we're shooting for this 11-3 vote is to increase engagement, community engagement and participation in this process as much as possible. And the data shows that by putting it on this, with the statewide midterms, that we would definitely get higher voter participation. And that is, you know, to me, very much worthwhile. Yeah, 100%.
I absolutely agree.
Okay.
There is a comment. We just want to remind people to put their name and address in the Q&A before I can read it. And actually, there's a second comment. No, it's from the same person. So we just need name and address before we can read the comment.
Thanks, Molly. All right. Any other questions,
No,
comments? Connor, you good? Thank you very much for your continued work, and we look forward to hearing from you at our next meeting. Thank you very much.
We do have the name and address.
Oh,
I could.
please.
Sorry.
This might be for you,
This is the
so
last
thank
one.
you.
Orlo Pujado, 748 High Street, two parts. One, has a traffic study been done? And two, was the FS1 steering committee established to work on the initial FS1 project or in response to the proposal being rejected at town meeting?
So we have our traffic engineers doing a review of traffic data related to the 3 sites in question to get a kind of high-level ranking of the sites as far as their traffic drawbacks. None of them are great when it comes to traffic because they are on High Street, but, you know, sensitive to the concerns that members of the community have raised, especially around pedestrian activity. At some of the sites, we do have Beta reviewing that now. And then as far as the other question, I would defer to the board.
Sure. As to the second part of your question, Orla, the FS1 steering committee was created after the failed debt exclusion votes last year in 2025. So after the failed vote in September, we had a community forum, which was very widely attended at the high school. We had a really great discussion, and part of what came out of that was that the community wanted to see other options for FS1. They wanted more involvement by the community in the process for selecting an option. And so with that, the board commissioned the FS1 steering committee that we brought in residents to drive that process. And that's where we are now. So it was after the debt exclusion vote last September. Great, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Have a good night. Okay. We still have a number of agenda items to get through, and then, so we'll move on to new business. And starting with the Injured on Duty Indemnity Fund Policy. I'll turn this over to you,
Yes.
Connor.
Sure, thank you, Mary Ann. As the board will recall, one of the items that we added to the May 4th warrant for annual town meeting was adoption of a provision of state law under 111F, which is the Injured on Duty statute for police and firefighters, to create a Injured on Duty reserve fund that the select board would manage. This is something that I borrowed from my past life. It is a good practice that other communities employ, where it creates a dedicated reserve fund, not unlike a special education reserve fund for schools, where the town has a relief valve without having to first resort to Article 2 transfers out of year-end funds for difficult to plan but potentially expensive budget impacts from longer-term injury absences for police and firefighters who have kind of inherently dangerous work, and the incidental costs that are accrued in addressing those absences, including overtime of folks to backfill them. So part of that article requires that once the article is adopted, which it was, which we appreciate of our voters, $200,000 was allocated to it from free cash. The select board needs to adopt a policy to administer it, and this is a proposed policy that I am looking for the board's feedback and ideally adoption tonight. There was one revision to specify that the receipt of a request from a chief of police or fire would be in writing, which is reasonable and it makes sense.
Yeah, I think it's very clear.
And forgive me, Joe, if I did I get the revision?
No, you made my head spin because I didn't know I sent that along to you. I'm looking, well, the man's obviously a psychic. He can see my notes in front of me.
Not that good.
Strong work.
But
I'm glad I sent it along, sorry.
if there's any questions or feedback, happy to answer. But again, this is a policy I have some familiarity with. I thank Molly for drafting the Westwood version of this, but
I just had a question. How much is this fund? Just the dollar amount? I mean, I know it will probably vary from year to year, but what is it like
We
now?
authorized 200,000 at town meeting in 2026, so that's what will be in there until it's being used or future town meeting puts more into it. Great.
right, one of the benefits of having it in a fund like this is that unlike free cash, it doesn't close out every June 30th. It's a fund that's there. Ideally, we always work to try to minimize injuries in these departments, but sometimes they do happen. So as that use is tracked in the future, that would inform future requests to replenish it.
Yep. Thank you. Hearing no other conversation or questions, I will entertain a motion.
I move that the select board adopt the injured on duty indemnity fund policy as proposed tonight.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
It's a unanimous vote in favor. Thank you, Molly and Connor.
Thank you.
We will,
There is an additional comment about FS1. I'm not sure if you want to do it now or wait till the end of the meeting.
sure, we might as well, seeing as we're transitioning.
Sue Feeney, 30 Russell Ave, asks, when was the traffic study done? What month?
So the traffic review is going on now. The firm that we are working with has done traffic counts in Westwood in the past. We are working with trying to identify baseline data, ideally not collected in summer, right? Because we know folks are sensitive to that. That work should be the report we are hoping to get by the end of July and before the committee makes its decision.
And I think it's worth noting that we've talked to neighbors in this area, and we're all cognizant of the fact that traffic on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday is different from Monday and Friday. It's fact of life for commuters.
But I also want to measure expectations. I'm kind of calling it a traffic assessment or review. This is not a full bore engineering analysis of all three sites. It's meant to be kind of a high level comparison of the three sites from a level of service perspective to give the committee enough information to make an informed decision. But a full-fledged ingress, egress, safety analysis is part of any site plan review that you do as you go through design development.
Thank you, Connor. Thank you for the question. We will move on to a memorandum of agreement with the SEIU, and I will turn this over to you, Molly. Thank you.
So the town and SEIU Local 88, which represents the town's administrative employees, have reached tentative agreement for a collective bargaining agreement for the term of FY 27 to 29. The primary objective of this round of negotiations was to align the language in that particular collective bargaining agreement with the town's personnel policies, which were adopted by the board in August of last year. That was a extensive process that the board went through to modernize, improve the workplace practices. So this proposed MOA incorporates language consistent with those policies while preserving the collective bargaining rights and benefits. There is similarly one edit to this document in the sick leave section D5. This is an area that gives administration the ability to extend sick leave in extenuating circumstances. That's existing language in the agreement. The decision is, or the recommendation is to strike that language because the sick leave bank language that has been updated and modernized really covers what that was intended to. So the agreement with just that section struck is what is before you tonight.
Thank you, Molly. Any questions, concerns?
It just seems to me that it's not completely finished. It looked like on page 11 and 12, there were sections that were missing. I was looking for, it says insert new sections to state certain things, and I couldn't find those certain things.
It's a link to it, so I'm guessing, hold on, let me go
Yeah,
back to it.
insert new section to state members of a bargaining unit will follow the Town of Westwood small necessities leave policy.
So that's a hyperlink
So
that
To
then
an
links,
existing
so the Town of
adopted
Westwood,
policy.
the HR page of the Town of Westwood lists all of the personnel policies of the Town of Westwood. So it may not have linked in this packet format.
Okay, yeah, it wasn't linking for me, so it seemed like
Sorry,
it wasn't finished.
It's, I don't have Wi-Fi, but mine, it is a blue clickable link, but,
Like under small necessities leave, it says insert new section to state.
right.
Insert new section. Same thing under Article 16 miscellaneous. It just looked like it wasn't finished, and maybe that's just the version I
So
got.
the format of a memo of understanding typically is a contractual document that layers on top of the full collective bargaining agreement.
Okay.
And so it is partially detailing what the changes are, but also partially instructing that if the key parameters here are ratified by the bodies, that the HR department will update the existing collective bargaining agreement to where they would insert a new section that states members of this bargaining unit will follow X policy. This policy and the next one under parental leave, Molly, correct me if I'm wrong, these are already existing personnel policies of the Town of Westwood that have been adopted by the town
And the select
through the select board. So this is really, speaking more just from my perspective in the industry, it's generally a good practice where you can, although unions have their rights to bargain for particular working conditions, where you can align folks across different bargaining units with uniform policies is a good practice. So that's why some of it is very succinct, as they will follow existing policy here, because some of those policies are quite lengthy, and to incorporate them into the full contract, it starts getting
Got
unwieldy.
it. So it's just incorporating it by reference. Understood. And it said here that the union is expected to
They did
have a vote.
Yeah, they
So
did
they have-
ratify last week, and then the small change that I referenced, I coordinated with them this morning, and they are also okay with that change. So this would be fully ratified.
Thank you.
This also marks the last bargaining unit that is open, and so all of our bargaining is done for a couple of years, which is great.
Which I will say, because Molly won't say it herself, is an accomplishment of Molly's function, particularly in HR, to have that accomplished while I think you had 6 expiring during a fiscal year while you were transitioning town administrator.
Great work, Molly, thank you. If there are no other questions or concerns, I'll entertain a motion to approve.
I move to approve the proposed memorandum of agreement between the Town of Westwood and SEIU Local 888 as included in the agenda item.
Second.
Just point of order, Pat. I know the motion here says the collective bargaining agreement. Is that motion as stated okay? I just want to be sure.
I believe it is.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
That's a unanimous vote in favor.
Thank you to the board and also to the employees in Local 888.
Excellent. Okay, thank you very much. That brings us to the Transitional Legal Services Agreement.
Vote against this.
Thank you, Marianne. As the board is aware, Attorney Patrick Ahern has served as Town Counsel of the Town of Westwood for many years. He's announced his retirement effective August 1st. While the town is currently making good progress on the Town Counsel search process, I recommend and think it's a prudent thing to do to have a kind of bridge agreement with Attorney Ahern. He has extensive institutional knowledge. He is actively involved in a number of ongoing legal matters. And so this would provide a framework for Town Counsel, who would then be special counsel, to close out those outstanding matters that he has had direct expertise on and be available to us on those items that he has worked directly on as we transition to a new model.
Agreed. Any thoughts, concerns? Joe, Aaron?
And if you want, I'll be happy to leave the room, in all seriousness.
No, my concern is I ordered 6 metric tons of root beer, hard candy, so.
You're on your own, Joe.
I'll help.
I like root beer.
Okay.
And then just for the public's benefit, it's in your packet, this agreement is structured to comply with applicable post-retirement legal requirements, so.
Thank you. If they're, really not gonna eat it.
No, keep going.
Yeah, I'll take it.
That was from Ollie, that's from Ollie.
Jettison it, like it.
That's from
Oh, it's for you.
yeah, it's for
Okay,
me.
how do
Okay,
Do you want one, Connor?
Here's Connor's.
thanks. It's a long meeting.
No kidding.
I will entertain a
Motion for
motion
Norwood
to
butterscotch.
approve.
I move that the select board approve the transitional legal services agreement with Patrick Ahern to provide limited legal and consulting services following his retirement as town council and to support the transition to successor council.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
That's a unanimous vote in favor. Stuck with you for a little longer, Pat. Okay, that brings us to old business, and specifically the select board value statement that we've been discussing. Connor, you have taken feedback and edited it. We sent it out for comment. I'll turn this over to you.
Sure, thank you, Mary Ann. As the board is aware, we've been having an ongoing conversation for a couple of months about establishing a more concise set of values of the select board, reflective of the many existing policy documents that the town has already adopted. This was a terrible idea to take a bunch of
I
scotch.
can't believe you did that.
I'm sorry. It's like doing this on hard mode. That had been reviewed by the board. We provided a draft, took initial feedback from the board, and at your last meeting, the board requested, and then we carried out, sending the draft of your value statement to the board and committee chairs of all boards and committees in Westwood, along with our department heads to solicit feedback. You have a track changes version with very modest adjustments, reflecting feedback from a handful of boards. Some of it, changing from using its to describe the town to our as a collective community to talk about our environmental resources, to specify under certain professional and ethical governance, adherence to regulatory standards and conflicts of interest in state law, but otherwise received no comments opposed to it, and a handful of comments saying we think this is great, we appreciate the board doing this. So if the board is willing, you have a proposed final version for adoption here.
Thank you, Connor. Joe, Aaron, any questions, thoughts, concerns?
I was pretty happy last time. But I continue to be happy.
Okay. Very good.
I think it's a great statement, and I think this is great for Westwood and for our local government, that people will see what our values are, what good government can be, and what we strive to be. So thank you very much, Connor, for your work for drafting this. And I'll just mention, for the benefit of people who haven't been with us on this discussion before, that we looked at similar statements from other municipalities. We considered those, read those, and this is what we came to as a group, as a board, from Town Hall. So I think it's a wonderful statement, and I will entertain a motion to approve it.
I move to have the select board adopt the value statement on behalf of the town.
I'll second that with the comment that people do pay attention. We did get feedback, so that's good, and you did a nice job with that, Connor.
Yeah.
Thank you. Appreciate
Thanks, Connor.
Agreed.
I did second.
You did. So all in favor?
Aye.
It's unanimously approved.
Thank you.
Thank you. That brings us to reappointment of board and committee members. We've already started that process going into the fiscal year, but we have one more for tonight.
Yes, as the board's aware, we are working with pulling together the remainder of that process in August, and navigating with a temporary absence. So there's only one in front of you tonight, and that would be to reappoint Nancy James to Fire Station 1 Steering Committee. As the board knows, Nancy James is co-chair of the Long Range Financial Planning Committee, having that connectivity while the Long Range Planning Committee is doing its project for looking at all of our building needs across the town and schools is a real value add. I know the committee this morning expressed that they would be thrilled to have her back.
Wonderful.
I'll move for the select board to vote to reappoint Nancy James to the FS1 Steering Committee.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, Nancy, for your service. Wonderful. We have another member for it. Great, okay. Well, that brings us to Select Board Liaison Reports. Anything to report? Erin?
I don't know. I've attended a Zoom call for the Norfolk County Advisory Board, and I have nothing to report on WEAC.
Joe?
None.
Okay. I will just report that the Long Range Financial Planning Committee is meeting this Wednesday at 6 o'clock. It is a public open meeting. It is on Zoom, so anybody can attend. That brings us to our next meetings. Our next regular business meeting is Monday, August 3rd, 2026 at 6 p.m. That will be a hybrid meeting. We will be here in person at the library. We also have, as we discussed earlier tonight, this Friday, July 17th at 8 a.m., we will have the police chief interviews. That is an in-person meeting in the Champaign Meeting Room at 50 Carby Street. That will be followed by a meeting on Monday, July 20th at 6 p.m., where we will deliberate on the new police chief selection, followed by town council interviews and possible selection. That will take place here in the community room at the Westwood Main Library. And just to reiterate, the interviews will be filmed for public rebroadcast, but not live streamed, to ensure equity between all candidates, regardless of order of interview. With that, we will now have a status update from council on the Town of Westwood versus the Westwood Land Trust. Members of the board, as you know, this is on our agenda tonight for an update from council and later for an executive session, both concerning the Westwood Land Trust's post-judgment motion seeking attorney's fees, which the Land Trust served on June 17, 2026, following the court's May 18, 2026 decision, which concluded the litigation. As you know, the Select Board met on May 22nd of this year and, after discussion, issued a statement that, quote, "The town respects the court's decision and intends to honor it," close quote. The Select Board also stated that it considered this matter closed and that it would not appeal or pursue any further action, but that the Select Board reserved the right to defend itself against any new claims brought against the town. Lastly, the Select Board in that statement invited the Westwood Land Trust to similarly commit to ceasing further litigation involving this matter, with the hope of renewing its partnership with the town in protecting the incredible resources of Westwood. We stand by that statement as a board. Approximately 27 days after the Select Board's statement and the court's decision, the Land Trust served the town with a motion for award of attorney's fees. With that, and in the interest of clarity for all residents, I'd like to turn this over to our special counsel, Brian Winter, for an update on that motion before we move into executive session. We will not be taking public comment on this issue this evening, as we will move into executive session and will not be returning to open session. With that, I welcome Special Counsel Brian Winter. Welcome.
Madam Chair, may I sit down?
Please, thank you.
So good evening, everyone. So first of all, if I may introduce myself, Brian
Please.
Winter. I'm an attorney at Mead, Tallerman and Costa, and it's been my pleasure to serve as special counsel in this matter. Thank you for the invitation, and nice to see everyone this evening. I just wanted to provide a brief update, and I'll be as succinct as I can and somewhat brief, realizing we're in public session. But first is sort of how we got here. And so as the board is aware, and as your chair just recited, the Superior Court issued its decision in this action on May 18th and ruled that while the conservation restriction does not allow the prohibition of all agricultural uses, the town's originally contemplated proposal was not allowable. That decision was the result of what we call a declaratory action that the town filed in approximately July of 2025. And that was seeking clarification from the court over the types of agricultural uses that are allowed under this conservation restriction. The court's May 18th decision ended the case. There were no pending matters before the Superior Court at that time after the court's decision. The court's docket indicated that the case was disposed of, which is court terminology for closed. At some point after that, the select board had met on May 22nd, I believe it was, and, I was contacted around May 22nd after the select board's meeting and alerted to the fact that the Westwood Land Trust was contemplating filing this motion. Subsequently, on June 17th, we were actually served with that motion, which means it's now in play, if you will. This motion seeks an award of attorney's fees against the town. The Land Trust's original pleadings in this action actually included a very similar request for an award of attorney's fees. That was before the court when it issued its judgment. In May, the court took no action with respect to this request. This new motion that we received a little less than a month after that decision relies exclusively on the plain language of the conservation restriction. And I'm sure you've all seen it. I'm not going to recite the entire thing now. But it provides for an award of attorney's fees in the event that the Westwood Land Trust has to, quote unquote, enforce that conservation restriction. And there's a paragraph that specifically identifies what enforcement means. And it identifies the Land Trust's right to enforce, the right to obtain injunctive or other kinds of relief for any violation, including without limitation, relief requiring restoration of the premises to its prior condition, etc. And it goes on. So this is the basis of the Westwood Land Trust motion, and I feel, as counsel, that it's misplaced. It's misplaced because there's been, in our opinion, no violation, and that's the key to invoking that provision. There's been no violation by the town, and there's been no enforcement action by the Westwood Land Trust. The town did not and has never violated the conservation restriction. To the contrary, our position has been that the town complied with that conservation restriction. More specifically, it complied with the process that's envisioned and laid out in that conservation restriction by asking the Land Trust for its approval as to certain uses of the property. That's explicitly contemplated by the conservation restriction, and it's explicitly a right the town enjoys under the conservation restriction. So at that point in time, there was a genuine dispute over the interpretation of scope of the conservation restriction and the parties' respective rights and responsibilities. So in our opinion, my opinion, there was never any violation. There was nothing that the Westwood Land Trust had to go to court to abate. No restoration of the premises required, and no injunctive relief was ever sought by the Land Trust, and it was never, of course, awarded. Again, the town, we believe, fully complied with the language of the CR when it requested permission to conduct certain activities as the CR contemplates. Land Trust motion now seeks an award of attorney's fees, not because the town altered the property or attempted to or indicated any intent to, but rather because the town asked for the Land Trust permission, which is a request and action, again, specifically allowed by the conservation restriction. So nevertheless, the motion has now been served, which means it's live and must be responded to, and it means the litigation has now resumed as a result of it. So I'm sure there's more to be said and discussed, and I'll defer that to the executive session portion of the evening. And with that summary, unless the board has any questions, I'll turn it right back over to you, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Attorney Winter. So the board will now go into executive session for two reasons. The first is to discuss strategy with respect to litigation, to wit, the Town of Westwood versus the Westwood Land Trust. Holding discussion in open session would be detrimental to litigating the position of the board. The second is to discuss strategy with respect to the purchase, exchange, lease, or value of real property related to the FS1 project, and to disclose any further information would have a detrimental effect on the governing body. I will hereby entertain a motion to go into executive session for those two aforementioned reasons.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Need to do roll call.
Oh, thank you.
Pardon me.
Thank you, Mr. Ahern. Joe?
Aye.
Aaron?
Aye.
I vote aye as well. That's a unanimous vote in favor. The board will not be returning to open session. Thank you, and good night, everyone.